Well, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well today and enjoying your Saturday because it is Saturday, November 2nd, 2019, and this is Raphael Garcia here for episode number 36 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. I want to say, as always, thank you for taking the time to listen to us. If you want to find our content, you can catch me at rgarcia_sports, where I'm always talking about mixed martial arts, professional wrestling, sports in general, political content, everything and everything in between. You can catch MMA Ratings Net on Instagram and Twitter, where we're talking about everything in the sport across athletics. And also, you can catch us on YouTube at MMA Ratings, where you find this show, which is just about weekly, and our weekly MMA show that comes up every Thursday evening, where it's myself and Shawan Humes. You can catch us there, Spotify, Anchor, iTunes, SoundCloud, and I believe that might be it. So, as always, thank you for taking the time to listen to us when the show comes up, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Click the like button, share this video and others across your social media network to let everyone know that we are always here creating content. So today we're talking about professional wrestling, and this has been a hell of a week for the wrestling industry. It's funny because I was talking to a bunch of people that I write with at Daily DDT about whether or not the wrestling world has kind of imploded this past week from Sunday to yesterday. And there's a couple of different things to talk about. We're going to focus mainly on the SmackDown show from last night, Crown Jewel, that whole situation with them leaving, not the show specifically, because as I've always said, we're not going to cover the show itself just because of its implications with it being a part of with Saudi Arabia being the benefactor of that. And we're also going to talk about the Jordan Myles situation from Sunday. I know a lot of people have been talking about it this week, but I don't want to necessarily recap the whole matter because I've made my stance very clear about the whole situation. It's more about the nuance in talking about this conversation as a whole that I want to cover. So we're going to touch upon that as well too. But I want to get the show started off with talking about what we saw last night on SmackDown with the NXT crew invading that show. Now, this was a very like it, this was very smart. The reason why this show was thrown together was obviously because of what was going on with the SmackDown crew leaving Crown Jewel and being able to make it to, I think they were in New York for um, SmackDown. So if you do not know, there's definitely a lot of information out about that. I would definitely go to probably Sean Ross Sapp first and foremost if you're looking for kind of more details about the situation. But basically, a large chunk of the roster were unable to get from Saudi Arabia to New York in time for Friday's show. Originally, they were supposed to have chartered jets that would have gotten there, chartered flights that would have gotten them there in time. But coming out Thursday after the show, there was a bunch of people talking about it on Twitter how they were basically unable to get out of there and there was some situation going on. We may not ever know what the truth is behind that and why there was a situation. The men and women on those flights, the crew, the wrestlers were detained, for lack of a better term, and it's not like detained by like guns or anything like that or military held them in place, but the WWE statement claimed that there were mechanical issues with the flight, but there's also a rumor going around that Vince McMahon got into a disagreement with the Crown Prince. I just read something too as well that was also rumor and speculation about whether or not WWE was paid for their shows, whatever it may have been. We'll probably hear about that at some point in time, and definitely not any anytime in the near future. But something occurred, and everyone was stuck on the tarmac. Some people chartered their own flight to try to get back. I know Kofi Kingston got back Friday night. I saw it on his Twitter account, but he didn't get back in time to get to the show. A bunch of people did not get back in time. But basically, that left SmackDown in a lurch because clearly there was no way that everybody would be able to get back in time. And this created a situation where it's like, great, we have this live show that we have to do something for. We have all these individuals that are coming to the venue to watch a wrestling event. So there was a lot of question about how they would answer the call. So as Friday night crept along, there were growing reports about the NXT crew being in the area, but it wasn't quite sure how they would be utilized. Some of them even had to hustle to get to the venue, and we're going to talk about it here because, like, for example, Shayna Baszler, before she ran into the Bayley and Nikki Cross match, she didn't get there in time before the match started. So that's why a lot of people are saying that she was kind of out of breath went towards the end of that segment because she was literally running to get to her spots. But the way they used the NXT personalities was perfect for tonight. If you watched Crown Jewel, there was a commercial hinting that Survivor Series is now going to include Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, the three brands going against each other. And that brief clip, which was maybe less than a minute, minute and a half, that commercial was used to set this stage for this show, and it was used perfectly. Triple H just had to say one line that he saw something that might have been somewhat of a challenge, and he took it as such. So now, to set the stage for him and Shawn to show up with God knows who they brought with them from NXT. Now, as the show went on, we found out exactly who they brought. Bianca Belair was in the segment, Tegan Nox, Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, Matt Riddle, and Keith Lee were used in the ring in some way, shape, or form. At the end of the show, when Triple H gave his pep talk, you also saw Leo Rush, you saw Swerve, you saw Angel Garza. I'm not sure. I think that may have been it. And there's something about that final shot too I want to talk about as well that I noticed too. But that was the talent that they brought with them. And this was the perfect way to begin introducing these individuals to the mainstream, quote unquote, viewer. And what I found was interesting was that a lot of these individuals got huge pops. Now, I wonder exactly how many of the people watching in the venue knew who they were and the people watching at home. So before we talk about that, everyone that follows the wrestling industry through social media knew that this show was in a state of clusterfuck going into Friday evening. And then a lot of people wondered how that would impact the ratings because everyone wanted to see how is this going to go off the rails. It's kind of like that old joke of when you see a train wreck, or not train wreck, a car wreck, you can't turn away from it. That was the idea of coming into SmackDown on Friday. Because to be honest, the last couple of episodes have not been good. This past one on FS1 had 888,000 viewers, and a lot of people were like, well, what does that mean? Because it was on FS1. Remember, because of the World Series, it was preempted and moved from Fox to that platform. But it tells you that people who may have been interested in seeing the content weren't interested enough to find it. So for them to have that type of drop off, it was huge. And their numbers have been steadily going down week over week. They did that. I think they did a 3.5 the first show. They did it at 2.4. That they did the 800, and then I believe they did. They may be missing one, but this week's show did a 2.5, 2.5 million viewership, and I wonder just how much of that were people tuning in to see just how bad the show is going to be. Because to be honest, SmackDown had no longer become appointment viewing. It's not appointment viewing to me anymore. Raw is an appointment viewing. Wednesdays are the only important viewing right now. Pay-per-view shows, and I catch everything else I can as I can catch it. But this show Friday night was more about what are they going to do to get themselves out of this situation here, and we saw that. So we had Shayna Baszler running on Bayley. She attacked Sasha. She attacked Bayley. She basically pushed Nikki Cross out the way. did her thing. She didn't have to speak too much. She looked like a badass. That's exactly what they do with Shayna Baszler. She does not need to speak much. She's doing her thing. I am so thankful they kept Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke off of TV. You know how I feel about them. They are stooges to me. They are nothing more than Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson right now as the stooges, not as the great wrestlers that they were. I can't, whatever. I can't with them, but I'm glad that they kept them off air and let Shayna do her thing and let Shayna look like a flat out badass. Then they had the segment with Sami Zayn talking, basically flapping his gums, and he runs into Matt Riddle and Keith Lee. That was pretty funny. The way he was like, yeah, I got my shirt in the car, et cetera, et cetera. And he tries to run away. I love the Keith Lee size, like Keith Lee line was like, hey, let me come with you because I have a hard time finding shirts in my size. Let's see if you have one. It was pretty funny. And, it was basically a squash there. He gets hit with the Bro Derek and a moonsault from the second rope by Keith Lee. I love Matt Riddle. Or it took, well, if you listen back to past shows, I've said it there too. It took him a little while to grow up. I wasn't a fan of his when he was in the UFC. Funny little bit of trivia, I guess there is Matt Riddle actually defeated my first jiu-jitsu instructor when Dante Rivera, when they were on the Ultimate Fighter together. He defeated him after that, and that was kind of the joke was if Dante lost, he would retire. So he retired for a little while, but he came back and fought again after that. But that's neither here nor there. Um, Matt Riddle's professional wrestling run, it has turned me on to him. He's definitely stood out in a way that I didn't think he would at first, and he's just getting bigger and bigger with his antics of basically antagonizing anyone from the 90s era. Brock Lesnar, Bill Goldberg is hilarious to me, and I want to see what they could do with that. They could have done something special here with Riddle and Lesnar. They don't gotta touch each other. It has to be anything physical. Just have them look at each other as they walk. As Brock was leaving, oh yeah, because he did quit. He actually, I forgot about that one segment. He quit SmackDown and is heading over to Raw under his own volition to go after Rey Mysterio. So that's there, and I think that has the potential to be something interesting. And when I think back to what it did for Eddie Guerrero's career and what that could do, what this storyline could mean for Rey. So that's that. But we'll probably talk about that next week. But Matt Riddle, Keith Lee beat up Sami Zayn, leaving Lane. They go about their way. What else happened? Bianca Belair beat the brakes off of Carmella and Dana Brooke before they were supposed to go up against Fire and Desire, which led to Rhea Ripley and Tegan Nox appearing, and they have that great match. They beat up Tegan Nox, and Rhea Ripley got the win there. Then we had The Miz come out, say his shtick. Tommaso Ciampa come out. They do their thing there. Tommaso Ciampa gets the win. And we also had the 25-minute match, or whatever it was, between Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan. Fantastic match. I mean, that was perfect. The minute we saw that match was going to be a half an hour, you knew, like, okay, this is going to be exactly what we needed to be. So let's sit back and let's enjoy this and let's have some fun here. Excuse me. So that match goes on. Triple H comes out with the troops. Everyone sits around and he does his I don't want to say cheerleader, but he does his we are NXT speech, and the show goes off the air. A couple of things I wanted to point out. Did you notice that Tommaso Ciampa did not take his eyes off of Adam Cole the whole entire time that the whole group was out there? Absolutely love that, because it allows them to stay in character that Tommaso Ciampa is basically chasing after Adam Cole on the Wednesday shows, and he's only here because he was told to be here by Triple H. I think that's the narrative that you see, and I think that's the narrative that works for that moment. Everything worked perfectly there, and I like that Tommaso Ciampa did not look away from Adam Cole. I like that they had Swerve out there. He wasn't really involved, Swerve or Leo, but it is what it is. that whole moment right there was fantastic. Having Sean out there too as well. And this speech is a lot like the speech where Triple H gave when they expanded DX after WrestleMania 14, I believe, with Billy Gunn, X Pac, and Road Dogg. So this is that same type of narrative. But this sets the tone for the lead up to Survivor Series on November 24th. Because now I want to know, well, is there going to be a segment on Raw now dedicated to NXT? There's two more SmackDowns between now and then. One, two, there's three more SmackDowns between now and then. So what does that mean for those shows? Are they going to be, continuously getting invaded by NXT there? Then the third point is, how does this impact Wednesday night ratings? Because right now NXT is behind AEW. Ratings don't mean shit to me. I'm just gonna sit and watch as much good professional wrestling as I like. But people often talk about, oh well, ratings this, ratings that, like as if the moment NXT beats AEW, then that means all hell is gonna break loose for AEW is gonna get canceled. None of that shit's gonna happen. But did this do enough of a kick in the pants to get NXT properly promoted in a way on Friday and Monday that will make more people want to watch on Wednesday? Say what you want, but NXT is not promoted in the same way on the Monday and Friday shows. And I believe that impacts their numbers, impacts their viewership, because they are putting on the best WWE content every Wednesday. I don't care what you say. It's better than SmackDown. It's better than Raw, week in and week out since its debut last month. But it doesn't feel like they are getting enough of a boost from Monday and Friday, saying, "Hey, pushing people to watch what happened on those shows." Now it would be interesting to see if they change that after tonight. If Monday, if we see some type of conversation about that on Monday, do they talk about NXT invading SmackDown? Does NXT invade Raw? What does that look like? On Wednesday, does SmackDown turn around and invade NXT? I don't really want to see that quite yet, but it could be hinted at, and it could make people want to watch that based off of that segment. With last year, when they did the whole invasion between SmackDown and Raw, it felt tired. By the time they were done with it, by the time they got to the final point of what's his name, Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon in the ring together, it just felt forced. It felt contrite. It wasn't fun and engaging. It's what they do almost every year, but this is a little bit different. And this is a little bit different in a way that you have NXT almost trying to like they seem to be the only underdogs in the story based off of what we saw last night, and I think that is the story that could be the through line between now and November 24th. Again, I wish that they looked back at Survivor Series and didn't necessarily make it brand versus brand. I wish that there were storylines in between the group that allowed them to mesh and work together. But if this is the route they're going to go with, it could be something that is, what's the word I want to use? It could be something that is creative enough to get people to watch. I mean, if you think about it, there's some great matches there. We could easily do Shayna versus Bayley versus Becky. I mean, that right there alone, that's a hell of a match. I mean, and that's a hell of a match, period. I can't even begin to speculate around that. Or if you got the tag team titles in the picture, you have the War Raiders, you have Fish and O'Reilly, and then you have the Revival. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that too, as well as a three-way. I don't like the main title. You have Adam Cole, Brock Lesnar, and what's his name? Bray Wyatt. That one doesn't work as much. And you got to do something around that. I almost feel like Bray Wyatt shouldn't be involved. Like, The Fiend doesn't care. I don't care about what brand you're on. I don't care about representing SmackDown, you all go fight your own battles or whatever. So that can be something else. And I don't know, maybe that's even how to get the title off of them, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. I don't even. They booked themselves into a bad position there. So that's that. Then you have the idea of Shinsuke Nakamura versus Roderick Strong versus AJ Styles. Who could look away from that match? So there's so much that is already exciting about the idea of these three brands going against each other. I just hope that they do something more creative with it and keep me wanting to watch week after week, but also they use this as an opportunity to drive viewership into Wednesdays, because right now I don't think they do a good enough job with that on their Monday and Friday content, and this is a good opportunity for them to change that up. My second topic I wanted to talk about today was the whole Jordan Myles situation, and obviously everyone that follows professional wrestling is pretty aware of the situation that occurred. I follow the show as well. I follow the content, and I've watched multiple shows that talked about this. And I really wanted to talk about the nuance behind this conversation, because it's not as simple as one would think. Did the WWE make a mistake with this shirt? Yes, period. Period. Like, there's no way. And what I mean by making a mistake with this shirt, it's not that it's intentional. Because oftentimes people have to learn about the words that they use, the actions that they take. Some things may be offensive that they don't necessarily know. You got to kind of give people the benefit of the doubt. But what I wrote about last week was the reason why this was so frustrating to me is because it shows that they don't have anyone in the room to raise their hand and say, hey, maybe we should do something else. Maybe we should do something else, because this isn't it, Chief. This isn't it. It shows that is a situation that is prevalent, not only within the WWE, but you see it across a lot of organizations. My company is 300 people, and they have the same issue where there's no diversity at the upper ranks, and people make decisions and say things that's just outright outlandish sometimes. So were they wrong? Yes. Could they have done this a lot better? Yes. Could they have handled it a lot better as well too? The answer is also yes, because with them releasing that shirt and then that statement after the fact, it's like, this statement isn't a good look, because you're not like, they should have literally just apologized, said we apologize, we did not mean it in X way, and just not necessarily moved on, but apologize, make an actual I don't want to say contribution to an organization, but something that shows that, hey, we fucked up. We fucked up and we're going to correct it, but they did not do that. They just made a very accusatory statement, for lack of a better term. So yes, WWE could have handled their aspect of this situation a lot better. Jordan Myles, could he have handled his aspect of it too better as well? Yes. I am all for people saying what they feel and saying it with their chest. He did that. But he took some steps that I am not so cool with. One where he put that if he wanted to use that email as an example of, hey, WWE lied to me, okay, that's one thing. But he should have blacked out the email addresses, should have made it more confidential. Doing that still is probably a fireable offense. I know, again, in my 9 to 5, we have a lot of confidential information that we use about our organization, and if I shared some of that stuff publicly and to make a fool out of somebody, I would probably be fired as well. So there's that. And then when he called Jay Lethal and Uncle Tom, that is some fiery terms right there. I don't know too much about Jay Lethal in that stance, if he deserves that type of accusation. I do not know that, nor do I care. But to bring him into the matter and talk about him in that such a way was a problem. He could have also he could have talked about ROH. He could have talked about the wrestling industry as a whole. But to do it like that, I have some, challenges with. And I think that there's a much better way to go about doing that. But to bring all of this together, the reason why this is nuanced and something that kind of stood out to me the most about this was that if media members are going to talk about this and talk about this conversation, they have to understand that there has to be a person of color in the room to have it, because there's a nuance to this that you will never understand. And what I mean by that is that if you have many shows that I've watched, many podcasts that I've listened to in reference to professional wrestling, usually it's like two or three white men talking about the industry, giving their opinion, talking about the contacts that they have and what they've told them, their sources, et cetera, doing reviews. Fantastic, great, I get it. That's where majority of the industry is. But I don't need that same group of people telling me why I should or should not be offended about a racial matter involving blackface. It's the same thing as if being a black male, were talking about the unfair nature that women wrestlers get in the industry. And it's not necessarily that I can't shine a light on it, but there's only so much space that my voice has in that conversation. There's a bigger space for women fans, women wrestlers, women media members to have about that conversation. And when they speak, my job is to listen. My job is to elevate their voices using my platform, as minuscule as it is, and to sit back and to listen. I was afraid of many of these platforms that are mainly white men and what they would have had to say about this Jordan Myles situation. I saw words like, that Jordan Myles was too big for his britches. Him and Leo Rush were basically doing the same thing. And when I saw that type of terminology, it's like you're tiptoeing very close on calling him an uppity Negro. Very close to using that type of terminology, and that's disgusting. So they had to be that's a dangerous matter. There are some programs like Wrestle Reaction. I used to love listening to them until they made some comments about Black Lives Matter, et cetera, and police brutality. They made some comments about that just kind of made me stop listening to their content about a year or so ago. But it's clear as day that this is a difficult conversation that everybody cannot have. I don't know what happens next with Jordan Myles. I mean, who knows? Who knows what happens next with this situation? I doubt. I mean, ACH, let's call it what it is. ACH is excellent in the ring. There's a reason why he won the breakout challenge. There's a reason why he was doing the damn thing in ROH and New Japan, et cetera, et cetera. He did the damn thing. But this is a serious problem. And it cannot be ignored. The way he handled himself was not great. Some are saying that he did it so he could get fired. Okay. Yeah, I know that there are a lot of people, reading reports about people being unhappy with NXT and the money that they're getting paid, even after getting moved from the network to the bigger platform. They were expecting to get more money. They were told they would get more money, and that still has not happened. Okay, I understand that. But maybe this still isn't the way to go about doing that. So we'll see what happens. He's not a talent that they would let go, I don't think. And let's kind of let's pay close attention and see what happens next, and kind of keep a very close eye on that. So I wanted to jump into some other topics as well. Final topics to close before I close out today's show. So AEW, they won the ratings war once again this week, even though they had to deal with World Series Game 7, which had almost 23 million viewers at one point in time. That's a huge number, but that's neither here nor there. So there was that situation. and I'm not going to kind of dive too much into that. Hold on. So there's that, and then let me see what else. So I really don't have too much to say about AEW. I gotta catch up. Um, I gotta catch up. That's really it. I want to sit down and start watching more AEW Dark. I'll probably do that this week. I just gotta sit down and kind of buckle down and catch more of that content. It's not what I'm hearing great things. I don't have much of a uh, I don't have much of a thought about them, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Other bit of news I want to talk about, not news, but I'm continuing to watch NWA Power. This week was a pretty decent show again. I've really, I'm really only interested in Thunder Rosa and Marty Bell. Marty Bell took an L this week, and she was confronted by Thunder Rosa. I think it's going to kind of start a segment with those two. What was in the main event? Colt Cabana's team against, or was it Nick? It was Nick Aldis and his team against, excuse me, it was Nick Aldis's team against James Storm's team. That's right. For what was on the line was either Cabana gets a shot at James Storm's title, or Storm gets a shot at Aldis's title. Cabana's team won, and now he's going to get a shot at the North American title, whatever the hell it's called there. Uh, Aaron Stevens, the former Damian Sandow, went up against Ricky Starks. Starks got the win there. Ricky Starks, I'm a fan of, just because I love that promo that he cut a couple weeks back. Let me see. That's really all I wanted to talk about from that show. Their numbers are continually going down. Their numbers are continually dropping, week after week. And yeah, there's really that situation. I think they are, let me see, because their show went down. The first episode was at 500,000. Second was at 300,000. The third was at 200,000. And then the fourth, which is this week, was at 171. So as I said, their numbers continue going down. But it's good content. It's good studio wrestling content, and it's something different that if you enjoy professional wrestling, you should sit back and watch. But as I said, that's all I have for this week. Don't have a whole lot to kind of watch. Again, I'm continuously working on the development of I'm continuously working on the development of this show along with other platforms that we're working on. So kind of stay tuned for that. That's part of my 2020 planning to kind of build on this show, maybe do more interviews, have more guests kind of help me go through some of the content week in and week out. But as always, I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this show. You can catch me at rgarcia_sports. You can follow MMA Ratings Net on Instagram and Twitter, where we're talking about this professional wrestling, boxing, all combat sports across the board. UFC 244 is tonight. It's going to be huge, and follow us there because we'll be talking about that. And yeah, that's really it. Like and share our content. Check us out on Spotify, SoundCloud, Anchor, and everywhere else in between. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to check us out and listen to us today. Have a great day and stay safe this weekend.